Okay, let's bring the meeting to order. This is the Historic District Commission with the town of Fairfield. The date is August 8th, 2024. The time is 4:15. This notice of this hearing was published in the Friday, August 2nd edition of the Fairfield Citizen. And I'll take attendance. I'll start with Darren Raymond Locke, Commissioner.
Here.
Thank you. Roseanne Negron, Commissioner.
Here.
Thank you. Arthur Vanis, Commissioner.
I'm here.
Thanks, Art. George Clark, Commissioner.
Here.
Thank you. Jim Bohan, alternate commissioner.
Right here, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you. Maura Garrett, alternate commissioner.
Present.
Thank you. James Accomando, alternate commissioner. He said he was going to be here, but I guess he's not here. James is absent. I am Adam Kleiber, commissioner. And we will move on to first item on the agenda. So we have a full, all of the commissioners here, so none of the alternates will be voting tonight. We have one item on the agenda, and it's Town of Fairfield for 985 and 1101 Harbor Road, Southport, for property hang on, I got this wrong. It is Town of Fairfield, 725 Old Post Road in Fairfield for the property located at 985 and 1101 Harbor Road in Southport for A, new sign at E Yacht Yard, and B, new sign at Lower Wharf. There's someone here representing Town of Fairfield tonight? George, are you representing?
My name's George here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
My name's George Harris. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Harbor Commission for the town of Fairfield. Our chairman, Don Hyman, is supposed to be on the call and told me he was, but he must be having, trouble with his audio. So he's going to try to call in now. We've submitted the application for two signs. One would be at the water lot at Lower Wharf, which is on the very end of Harbor Road there. And the other one would be at the Yacht Yard near the kayak racks.
Can you
This
present
may
your
be
application?
him coming in now. I'm sorry?
Can you present your application?
Sure.
Or would you like me to pull it up?
Can you see it now?
No. You have to go through a process to share your screen.
Share content. Go back reader. Share. There we go.
There you go. We got it.
Okay. So this is our application, signed by our chairman. This is our letter from our chairman stating the reasons for the sign and a little of the history leading up to how the land was given to us, including some deed restrictions that were on the deed that transferred the water lot, which is next to the Lower Wharf area, requiring a sign by deed. Would you like me to read this or?
No, that's part of the application,
Okay.
unless there's something in there specifically you want to point out to us that is relevant to the application.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And
Can you
Don?
hear my voice?
Yes.
This is Don Hyman. I apologize profusely. I had my technology problems getting into this meeting. Can you hear my voice
No
now?
problem. Yes.
Thank you very much. George Harris and I had worked out a kind of a sequence, which, can we restart this conversation with you? I apologize again for being
Yeah, of
Um,
course, please do.
technologically, but thank you very much for meeting with us. I'm the chairman of the Harbor Management Commission. George is the vice chairman. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. You're hearing me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're hearing
Very
you fine. Yeah, sometimes if you have two sources of audio going, you'll get feedback. So just make sure you're just using either your phone or your computer separately.
Okay. All right. So
But,
what I wanted to say is that just to start this, I did read through the Historic District Commission's handbook, and I was struck by um, the eloquence of your preface. And there's one thing I wanted to read and quote because I think it's very relevant for this discussion today, if I may do that.
of course,
Preservation is not for the past, but for the future. For the future. Generations yet to come deserve to have some small measure of the material culture that preceded them. And then it continues, we protect the entirety of the historical life of our community through a representative group of buildings and structures in the 3 historic districts. I think the concept of preservation being for the future was key for me because we're involved with risk management, and that goes to the future as well. And I think we have that in common with you as we talk today. The art to this is finding the balance, I think, between historic preservation and the very important aesthetic concerns that your commission focuses on, and our concern with safety and risk management at Lower Wharf and in that area. That said, there are a few forces that kind of propelled us to come before you today. One is weather. You'll probably know that back in December of 22, a terrible storm came into town and destroyed the pier at Lower Wharf. That triggered many things, including a town-ordered risk management assessment of the whole area. A risk management consulting firm was retained by the town. They came in and found a number of issues with Lower Wharf, which we at the Harbor Management have responsibility for, and urged that the town construct a signage program that warned people of risks and educated people on some of the safety expectations. So risk management was another force. And then there's the law itself. There are 2 deeds that govern this property, one for the main large area, and then for a smaller adjoining water lot. Each deed has language in it that has requirements regarding what can be done or said there. And one lot in particular, the water lot, has a very specific signage requirement to meet. Okay. And then lastly, I think the other thing that's kind of driving this discussion today with you is community. There is not only the language of the deed, but there's the spirit of the community. When you're going to be putting up signs like we're proposing to do, it was very important for us. In fact, we were required to touch base with people who live in the Harbor Road area, especially the people who were part of the original gift of that land to the town back some time ago. And we consulted with them carefully as we went through this exercise. So all that led us to first create one large sign that we thought we would put at Lower Wharf. And we used as a model for that large sign an existing sign that's at Southport Beach. And we used that as our kind of design model. And then after talking with a number of the residents on Harbor Road and people who were part of the gift, we were persuaded to consider a different approach, this two-sign approach, which I heard George speak of before. There would be two signs. One would be at Ye Yacht Yard near the entrance to Lower Wharf. And one would be at a smaller sign would be at the water lot adjacent to Lower Wharf. That's where the deed requires that sign to be, and it has certain language on that sign that's required there. We used as our model this time around, at the suggestion of neighbors on Harbor Road, we use the signs that are in place now at Ye Yacht Yard and have been there for a while. The signs that we used are all mimicking the existing wooden signs that are in place all over Ye Yacht Yard. The large one that you see on the screen now is there now. It has this is the model that we use. If you were to go to Yacht Yard today, you would see it says something like "Welcome to Ye Yacht Yard" on it. We superimpose the language that we need to put on here per all the discussion we had with lawyers and others. So that's the large sign that would be erected. And then there's a smaller sign that would go at the water lot right there. And that's also modeled exactly after the sign design that's now in place at Ye Yacht Yard, both those signs. So we would simply mimic those signs and put the information on those signs that we're required to put on per the town attorney, per the town risk manager, and per various other departments in town that are propelling this public safety risk management education program. What we're trying to do basically is to create some engaging signage that also fits the community and gives visitors guidance, something to think about regarding the risks that are present and public safety that's expected. And we're doing that so that injury can be prevented, town liability can be managed, and the overall environment for both visitors and neighbors who live in the Harbor Road area can be enhanced. So that's the background that I wanted to go through before we talked about the signs specifically. I hope that's helpful to you so you understand that. George Harris, if you want to go back and talk about the signs per se and their dimensions, I suspect
Sure.
the commission would be interested in hearing that.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear?
yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So this is the first sign we're proposing. We're calling it sign 1, which would be at Ye Yacht Yard. This is not the actual placement. This is the placement of the current sign there. The sign that we're proposing would have this lettering on it and be the exact same size and construction as the sign that's there currently. We've been told that the sign vendor that we're using, who is a resident of Southport, is the same vendor that built these signs for the town. These were put up not by us, but by Parks and Recreation, who control Ye Yacht Yard. This sign, as you can see, is 10 feet tall from the ground. It is more like 4 feet, the white area there, and it would be 8 feet 8 inches wide, including the wood around it. This sign would be placed approximately there, which is next to the road, Harbor Road, and sort of shaded by the trees and the kayak rack. We'll have a drawing of the grounds in a few slides. The second sign mimics the sign that is at Ye Yacht Yard near the boat ramp. and would be 24 inches wide and 18 inches tall, with a total of 3 feet of tall with the post. It would be, you have this in your packet, but this is the lettering for the sign and the draft of it. The sign would be placed approximately here, which is on the water lot. It is not on Lower Wharf, the grass area. It's actually on the water lot. It's above high tide, and it is shielded by the hedge that is to the right. It's not in this picture, but it is to the right of that sign. So while you can see it from the road, it's not really visible unless you get down onto Lower Wharf. And we did that with regards to considerations for the neighbors.
They requested that.
So, yes. Sorry for the less than professional drawing here, but when I went to town hall to get plot plans, this was all they have for Yee Yacht Yard. There has never been a full plot plan created for Yee Yacht Yard, according to them. So you can see the boat ramp on the south, the kayak rack just to the left of that, Harbor Road. There is a no existing town placed no parking sign, which is 20 feet from the edge of the property on Harbor Road. And our sign would be 6 feet, a little bit farther from that. And that's where we propose for our larger sign 1. It would be, as we saw, it would be sort of shaded from the trees and off to the side. And that's what we're talking about there. Sign 2, and this one was approved for zoning compliance by the zoning office. This would be, let me get, right, okay, so this white area up here is Lower Wharf, where it's turned blue now. That is Lower Wharf, and the bulkhead for Lower Wharf is this line right here, concrete retaining wall that runs around into the front. This is riprap area here. The hedge starts right about here, where this first mark is, and runs up. This is not, so that is where the smaller sign would be located. This is the deed. Which transferred the Lower Wharf to the town of Fairfield. And it says in it that plaque shall be placed, but no other structure shall be erected there. That was one of our reasons for not placing the sign on Lower Wharf. These were the people that donated the land and put that in the deed. Signed by Ken Plato back in the day. And this is the second form deed transferring, it's called 1100 Harbor Road, the water lot, which is designated as 1101 Harbor Road, Southport. In here, I'll highlight the guarantee agrees that a sign will be posted on the parcel referencing the restrictions, 1 per floor inclusive, as above set forth, the size and location of the sign at discretion of the grantee. And these are the restrictions that we've listed on that sign. This is just a listing of the area described. This is the risk management survey that was done in 2023 This was before the pier was disassembled by Town Public Works. This, just for your information, it recommends a license. There was a little electrical panel there that has been disconnected. There's no electricity to the lower wharf at all. Goes on about erosion and so forth. And we are working, our commission is working on, and Don just went to Hartford to secure some money to replace the both the pier and the bulkhead, the concrete retaining wall that is crumbling and in need of repair. And then you can see us here, they wanted us to include a sign warning of sudden drops, no unsupervised children, no swimming, et cetera, et cetera. And from there, we went to the risk manager and the town attorney, who have tweaked the wording with us and helped us create that. And that's a picture of the pier that has been dismantled and will be replaced soon. I'm sure Don can answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Aaron, do you have any questions?
No questions for me, thank you.
Rosina, questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Art,
No, thanks, Adam.
George,
No questions. Thank you.
Jim,
No questions. Thorough presentation. Thank you very much.
and Maura, questions?
No questions, thank you.
And I see James Accomando has joined us. I'm not sure when you came, Jim, but if you have any questions? No questions. Okay. I have a few questions, I think, comments anyway, and it's based on, first of all, I think if you go back to sign 1, which is the one that I mean, clearly it's, I understand that these signs are required. It's just a question of how they should appear. I mean, are there guidelines to the size of the signs and the size of the fonts that are required for these signs?
The American National Standards Institute was consulted by the risk management company that was used by the town. They said that the sign needs to be near the entrance to Lower Wharf. This would be that. We wanted a sign that was engaging, that would be read, easily read by people who speak English and people who don't speak English. And we came up with this size because this was the size that would contain the information in the most legible, clearly, easily read way. And it was consistent with the size of the sign that was already in place on the property. So that's why we came up with this size. The font itself, or the typeface, there was no discussion about that. We came to this because, in our view, it was easily read and quickly read by people. And of course, at this point, when you're going to Lower Wharf, you'll only be able to get there legally by foot, as a pedestrian. And that's how we arrived at both size and typeface. We wanted it easily read and big enough to hold the information that we have.
Okay. The existing sign for the yacht yard, I don't know if it was ever approved by the commission. I don't recall ever seeing it come through, and I know that the sign is relatively new. It hasn't been there for 20 years. I know that. Just looking at past Google Map stuff, that the image that's on there shows the wood on the sign being very new and not as weathered as it is now, which implies that it was not that old. I apologize. I think I have to mute because my dogs are going bananas. Sorry about that. And then the question of the font, I find like they use this copper slate font, which in my opinion is not a very historic font. Usually a serif font would be a better choice for something in the district. But I think I mentioned this to you before in our conversations back and forth when you were coming up with different sign options, that the font I thought was an appropriate font for the historic district.
Is there a
it's
font
also a
you
very
could
big sign.
recommend? Is there a font you could
just like
recommend?
Times New Roman is the most basic font out there, I think. Arial is more like this. There are 100 fonts out there, more than a million. A lot of old-fashioned sort of serif fonts. I'm not saying it has to have the old-fashioned looking, but it should be more like, I think, a traditional looking font, in my opinion.
I think we can.
And then again, I think the size is what, that's what I was asking about if there were requirements for the actual size of the sign or the fonts, how big does that lettering need to be by, is there a standard for a sign like this? Or, I mean, I know you just want to make it legible, and I get that. But I guess my point is that the smaller the better, and the more discreet the sign could be. I know it needs to be visible and it needs to be legible, but I think there's got to be, a give and take as to what's legible and what's not. And you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do, and we can certainly specific guidance like you're giving us on the font is very helpful. Times New Roman or Arial. I don't see any problem in switching to that kind of a font. I think George Harris and I discussed this before. I think we can be flexible in that regard. You agree, George? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Regarding the size of the sign, I'd ask you to just bear in mind this is the balancing act where we have to find the balance between public safety, giving people something important to think about, being immediately legible, and the aesthetic considerations that you're understandably concerned about. And again, the sign that's there, I gather it wasn't reviewed by your commission, but it is there. And that's what we used as a model. So we would like it to be if the smaller it is, it kind of undermines the function of the sign, don't you think?
Well, I mean, you did make a point of that you can't access the wharf unless you're only walking. So if you're walking down that road, down Harbor Road to the wharf, you don't need a massive sign because you're not going at a faster clip. You can stop and read the sign. So I mean, it's a question. I don't know the answer. But personally, I think, the smaller the sign, the better. But I understand.
Do you have an idea? Do you have a idea as to how much smaller you would like to see it, percentage-wise, or?
Can I
I mean, off the top of my
interject
head, I
here
can't
for a
really say.
second?
I'm sorry, who's talking?
Sorry, I'm just going to interject here because I deal a lot with exterior signage, and one of the things that I think needs to be taken into consideration is accessibility, and there's specific guidelines for that in terms of size and font and how big the
Yes,
font
for the
is and
ADA.
all that stuff. And I would really strongly suggest looking at those.
Where would we find that? We're
Where,
amateurs.
The American
That's a
American
question. I'm
Disability
not on
Act.
my home computer. There is an association that deals with that, a national one.
I think it's the American Disabilities Act.
Yeah, that's one of them. But then there's another one.
ICC,
ICC and the Access Board does them too.
yep. ANSI 2017, basically.
Okay, so I mean, my biggest issue was with the main sign, the big sign that you had. The other sign I think looked pretty good. The font was different, although I still think the font could be more of a serif font. But that was a more appropriate looking sign. How big was that one? It's like 2 feet wide. Still a little bit big, but it's located a little bit more discreetly. I mean, it's obviously visible, but it's not like blaring.
Well,
Do you know off the top of your head the size of the fonts, what point they are?
no, sorry, we don't.
No idea.
No, there's been many iterations of the design and the wording and the fonts at this point. We've had to do the best we can with it, and
Right.
while
And the
we've
other
come
thing
up with
is this the particular sign to scale like that one? The one you have shown? I mean, honestly, I think the best thing to do is to have like a mock-up sign and put it out in the field and have people look at it. That'd probably be the best way to determine, you know, how effective or in both ways.
well,
Is it legible? Is it out of place?
we need some help understanding who makes those judgments and so forth. I mean, what's very helpful for us is to give us clear, actionable direction, and we can do those things.
Right.
But we're like you, volunteers, and unlike
Yeah,
you,
I understand.
we have no background in this area. We rely on our sign vendor and reactions from people like yourselves. But we're volunteers and amateurs.
I understand. Well, Don, I mean, I'm just one commissioner on this commission, and when we vote, I may not be, you know, the popular vote. So just because I have a problem with it doesn't mean everyone else in the commission will have a problem with it. And then there's of course people I see there are people from the public who might want to speak on,
Yeah.
on, you know, give their opinion on the sign themselves.
I would say in summary, you know, to your comments on font and size, we can certainly change the font on both sides to be either Times New Roman or Arial. And if you give us a specific direction on size to act on, you know, we can consider that. But we've been working at this for over a year. We
Right.
have done everything to get as much community feedback as we can on the size and sign and location. We need to get this done. We want to do it right. We want to do it in a way that respects the community and fits in the community, but this needs to be done.
Yes,
Can
I understand.
interject? I just looked up, AI says the Americans with Disabilities Act requires that text on signs be between 5/8 and 2 inches tall based on the height of an uppercase letter I. The size range ensures that the text is large enough to be read comfortably from a distance.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I think I heard you say 5/8 of an inch high.
Between 5/8 and 2 inches tall.
for the
Based
text.
on based on the height of an uppercase letter I.
Well, that's a broad range, obviously.
Right, but
But
at
that's-
least it gives them, they can't really go smaller than 5/8 inch then.
That's very
Yeah,
helpful.
a half
I
inch.
think. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good old AI helps sometimes.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
you have any other comments? I don't have anything else to say.
I had one quick question.
Sure.
I know that we have applied officially for a certificate of appropriateness. We would be happy with whatever designation you give us for as long as we can proceed with constructing the sign. I say that because at our commission, sometimes we have issued a statement of no objection and then specified certain conditions for different proposals that come before our commission. I don't know if there's provision in your commission to do something like that, if that makes you more comfortable. But I
We
just
do-
throw that out as an idea.
We do have the ability to make stipulations on applications, but we'll have to, we go into our executive session and discuss your application. I think everybody will pitch in as to what the best way to move forward is from the commission's standpoint. If it gets approved with stipulations, that's a possibility. And it's also a problem. I think the most realistic possibility, I can't say it's most realistic, but the other possibility is it might get denied without prejudice, which means you just can come back with a variation of your existing application. Unfortunately, it will take longer, and you have to wait another month to submit another application, which I know puts you in a bad situation. But I mean, perhaps there's a way to do a temporary sign if it's that big of a deal, a big of an issue with you, a safety issue, or you needed to put up temporary signs until you had the permanent signs approved. That may be something that can be done. So,
Well, I think if you, an approval with stipulations such as we're talking about regarding type size and font size, that kind of very actionable, easy to follow guidance would be great. We want to
Okay.
do what's correct. We just need your guidance.
okay. We will discuss it. Does anybody else have any comments or?
I guess the only other thing I would say, that reference to the text size, 5/8 of an inch to 2 inches in height, for using this capital I as a standard. If you'd have to kind of look at our sign, look at the volume of information that's on there, and do the calculation to see what would fit within that criteria. My recollection when we looked at this before is I think that we're actually fitting that criteria now. But we welcome your comments.
Okay. Without knowing what your proposed font size is, it's kind of hard to, I guess you look at the size of the sign proposed and work backwards. But, okay.
I suppose our vendor could, George Harris, could our vendor answer the question regarding typeface size?
I can contact him and ask, sure. It depends on the size of the sign, obviously. If we're to scale down the sign, then the font would have to be scaled down.
Yep. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your patience and your helpfulness. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you for your presentation, Don. I'm going to ask the public if anyone would like to speak in favor of this application.
Hi, it's Jack Imes representing Sasquatch. Can you all hear me?
Okay, thank you. Yes, Jack Hines, go ahead.
Yeah, my only comment is to consider the instead of a vertical sign, that large sign, it might be less in your face, if you will, if it was horizontal. And just an idea. That's all I have to say. I think everything else makes sense from what I've been listening to. Thanks.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this application? Would anyone like to speak to oppose this application, speak against this application? Okay. Hearing none. This hearing is closed. Thank you, Don. Okay, moving on with the agenda, we're going to consider our one item on the agenda, the Town of Fairfield 725 Old Post Road for property located at 985 and 1101 Harbor Road in Southport for A, new sign at the Yacht Yard, and B, new sign at Lowell Wharf. Can I get a motion, please?
Adam, this is Art. I'll move to deny without prejudice all items.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second for discussion purposes.
Thank you, Darren. Discussion.
I think that some of the discussion that we were having earlier, or that was happening earlier, really needs to be guided by accessibility standards for signage, exterior signage, and I think that needs to be looked into. But it sounds like they did at least do a measure of that with the sign company. It sounds like they did have some guidance regarding size and font and that kind of stuff. I just don't know how much.
Yeah, without knowing what the font size is, it's hard to tell where it falls.
Your range on size, on font size is pretty broad. I would suggest it probably fits it, but the question is, not knowing is probably wrong. So we probably should get the information corrected.
I would agree. It probably fits but it might be just larger than it needs to be.
Right.
So if it could go to a smaller font and still comply with that ADA guidelines, and I think that might be better.
Yeah, I agree.
I put on the chat the guidelines that normally are used in Connecticut. So
Okay. So, anyone else? I would be reluctant to approve with stipulations, given the state of the. I know they're anxious to get the signs up for safety concerns, but at the same time, I don't want to have signs put up that we don't think are appropriate.
Since there's probably 60 days before they could be reheard, I would imagine that their sign company could give us a mock-up to go out there and at the same time understand the font size and the options.
Yeah, I would think so. I know when the town did the plaques, the historic plaques around like the town hall and stuff, they did a mock-up for us, put it out there,
Yeah.
which was very helpful.
The same thing with the library and the churches. They've given us mock-ups.
Yeah. Jim, do you guys have any comments? All right, let's take a vote. All in favor with the motion to deny without prejudice? All opposed? None opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next, moving on to approving minutes
Adam, I
from the July
have to
meeting.
go, so I'm going to jump off this call.
Okay, thanks, Darren.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, Darren.
To approve the minutes, July 11th, the Rosina, Art, Jim, and Maura were here. A motion to approve those.
I'll make the motion to approve as presented.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Rosina. Thank you, Jim. All in favor? All opposed? Unopposed? Motion passes. Chairman's reports. We have a repair at 72 Willow Street for a generator in kind. I have no violations and no other business, no old business or new business to address tonight. Unless anyone else has something I want to bring up.
Adam,
Need a motion
Adam, question if I may. Was there an
Yeah.
application of appropriateness for the construction work that was done on Center Street? I'm not talking about the tall house. I'm talking the house, the Hall property across the street.
Yes.
Okay.
Where they made the driveway, they put the
Yep,
access.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, they were approved. Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yep.
They
They
did,
put a gate in.
they did a great job. It looks very nice.
Yeah, I think so too. I know the neighbors were a little worried when they saw it happening, but
Yep.
hopefully it's blended in nicely.
It looks very nice.
Oh, good.
Is there a way that applications like the one that we just saw, we could basically do kind of like a pre-application meeting, even if the applicant
Yeah.
does not request it? Because it kind of feels that this was the only application. If they will had come to a pre-application meeting before, maybe all these questions that we had could have been resolved prior to having them, in a way, waste an entire month.
Well, they've been doing this for a while. I've been in contact with them and giving them feedback, and they've been in contact with people in the community,
Okay.
getting feedback. So I agree with you. A pre-application meeting would have been probably much more productive than what they did, because I don't feel like that there was a lot that was accomplished from their meetings. They ended up going to using this one sign as a model, the one at the yacht yard, which wasn't ever approved by the commission. I don't know if you ever remember seeing a sign being approved like that. I certainly don't. Of course, it's the town, so I'm going to issue a violation, but I'd like to, maybe have them come in and get approval for a sign that's, I think, a little bit more appropriate. I don't think the sign that's there now for the yacht yard is a great sign. That's, but yes, I agree.
Okay.
But I can't really twist people's arms to make them do pre-application meetings. If they want to do it, that's great. We do
But can
have,
we suggest them?
Yes, we can, yeah. And I do. I don't think I suggested it with them this particular time, but I should have. It probably would have been more productive.
Okay.
Speaking of pre-application meetings, Country Days is looking to do a project, and they would like to do a pre-application meeting. It's a large project, so I'm considering either doing it on the site and doing a special meeting, noticing a meeting to have everyone there, which would probably be the best thing to do. But I'll be reaching out with to find times, that people are available to do that in the next week or so. So if there's nothing else, we just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. Thanks, George. All in favor? All opposed? Unopposed? We're adjourned.
Thank you.